So, are we rolling?
Robot Shrink 2-6 commencing analysis session. Subject identity verified. You are Psi Judge Cassandra Anderson.
And then some. Do we need to do this right now?
Regulations state that all Psi Judges involved in any mindclasm event must submit to...
Okay, whatever you say, Sparky. Get me some Synthy-Calf and I'll tell you the whole sorry tale.
I'm sorry. Ingestion of stimulants is prohibited during a debriefing. How does that make you feel?
I'm tired and cranky. Don't make me brain burn you.
Telepathic force has no effect on my cybernetic systems, Cassandra.
Little Draka.
Please repeat your last statement.
Never mind. It started on Tuesday morning, early. Sun wasn't up. Most of the regular Siths were still tucked up in their snooze pods, drifting through dreamland. Of course, for me, that's a whole different game of shuggy. I like to use the sleep machines when I can. 10 minutes under one of those suckers is a whole night of perfect slumber. No tossing and turning. No nightmares. But every judge has to take the mandatory 8 hours of real sleep in the barracks during their duty rotation. Well, that might be okay for most judges, but being a psychic sensitive like me, let's just say sometimes your mind starts to wander. When the city sleeps, that's when the monsters come out. Whoa! I picked it up real clear. Not a voice, not like you'd know it. A sense of someone. A telepathic imprint, if you like. Now that I think about it, he'd been out there on the edges of my thoughts for a while. A glimmer, like the light of a mirror in the distance. Getting clearer and sharper by the hour, but still out of reach. Closer now, though. But there were other minds in the way, stones thrown into the same pool. Ripples. You don't follow me. It's okay. Another psychic would know what I mean. It's hard to put into words something that there's no words for. People ask what it's like being a Psi Judge. Can you read my thoughts, they say? Do you know what tomorrow's Mega Lotto numbers are? Will you talk to my dead grandma for me? Do you kill folks with your brain? But the truth is they really don't want to know. Oh, okay, maybe the thing about the lottery numbers, but not the rest. Life in Megacity 1 is freaky enough without having to deal with ectoplasm, mind warps and alien superfiends from beyond space. Most Siths just want their Tri-D and their instant Munzburger. They don't want to know that the world they live in is the shallow top layer of reality, and that underneath there's things that would drive you mad just to see them. But hey, why start the day gloomy, right? I got what we in the biz call an inkling. You know, those times when you get that feeling that something is about to go very, very wrong, but you don't know what or where? Yeah. Now you think of that times 10, times 1,000. That's the warning a Psi gets. It's the universe saying, hey, your day is not gonna go well. I had one of those, and it was telling me to go look up an old friend. Oh, and the lotto numbers are 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, and 42. That time of day, the streets were pretty empty. Meg East, Sector 27, close to the Black Atlantic Wall. Judges get a lot of work out here, mostly from the smuggling gangs that run out of the docks along Ocean Sprawl. It's the primo pipeline for contraband entering the city. Everything from sugar run out of the Pan Andes Conurb to weapons and kill tech from Bruges City. Sometimes Justice Central calls us in to do a little peep and pop, helping the local judges to isolate the ringleaders and take them down. This place is also the first sight of the big mech that some folks get if they come in by hydrofoil or sub. A fair percentage of them arrive under the radar, though. Illegals, lured here under the promise of a better life. The desperate and the dumb, preyed on by traffickers. They end up as fodder for the bite fights. Workers in the stooky shops. Or worse. We try to plug the holes. They just make new ones. 'Cause if you want to get in, want it more than anything, you'll find a way. Up along the line of the Billy Bob Thornton overzoom, there's a nest of agrodomes where they ferment pond scum 24/7. Yeah, you heard me. Pond scum. Some kind of algae that the bioprocessors can turn from greeny-brown sludge into... well, I'm not exactly sure what. I've never asked, in case it's something I like to eat. But the domes are a good vantage point. Plus, the stink keeps most folks away. Either that or they pass out. Grud! It's ideal for a stakeout. But you'd need to be made out of granite not to want to puke after being there for more than 5 minutes.
Anderson.
Speak of the devil. Sup, Joe? Nice spot you got here. If it wasn't for the gut-churning stench, I'd put my feet up, have a picnic.
You don't notice the smell after a while.
Probably 'cause your nasal tissues have burned out.
What's the emergency?
Who said anything about an emergency? Can't a girl visit her buddy, have a chat about the good old days? Hey, Joe, you remember that nut job Judge Death? Ha ha, remember how you had to encase me in plastic just to trap him? Yeah, good times.
No offense, Anderson, but whenever you turn up out of the blue, hell is 10 steps behind you. What's gonna happen? Zombies? Demonic invasion? Vampire plague?
I just got an inkling, that's all.
That's not good.
What are you doing here, anyhow?
See for yourself.
Dredd had surveillance gear and a snoop scope. He was watching a smokatorium across the street. Inside sealed pods, nicotine users can legally puff their lungs black without contravening the city's pollution laws. The scope was running a thermographic sweep, cutting through the haze of cigs, tracking a guy in a big Radarak. He wasn't a local. He'd come in off a tram floater from the Sargasso City ship on forged papers. By the time the border judges caught on, he was already inside the city. But the guy liked his smokes. I guessed he wasn't our usual kind of illegal.
Got a face match. He's had work done, but it's the same guy, all right.
Zing Woo Zing. Catchy name. According to his file, Zing was a covert operative from Sino City 2. A stone killer with a hardcore rep. Yeah, a foreign spy. Nosing around our turf. It's not that unusual. In fact, it's pretty typical. See, every one of the global city-states has a Black Ops brigade, with agents scattered across the planet. We spy on them, they spy on us, we know who they are, they know who we are. There's an unspoken agreement between the cities. But if you do something dumb, something that upsets the balance, say, like deploying a new agent when you shouldn't, then the gloves come off. I had to wonder, what were the Sinos looking for in this part of the Meg?
It gets better. Zing's not the only new out-of-towner. He's one of 3 operatives from other megacities that we're currently tracking. Chatter on the SATCOM suggests there may be others as well. I wanted to bring these spugs in, sweat them a little, but the chief judge vetoed any arrest order.
No surprises there. Hershey's not stupid. She knows the moment we pull a foreign agent off the street without good cause, the storm will start to fly. The last thing the city needs right now is a major diplomatic incident. Oh yeah, Joe just loved the idea of playing babysitter. I told him to cheer up. Think of it as a vacation. I looked back through the snoop scope, watching Zing as he stubbed out a cigarillo. That's when I got the inkling again. There was something about this guy. The thought was barely in my head when he turned and looked right at me, right through the wall, right down the scope, right into my mind. Drock! We've been made!
What the?
He's a psyker! Zing's hand disappeared into the folds of his Radarak, and when it came back there was a 75 caliber recoilless jammed in his paw.
Down!
He blasted his way through the wall, then followed up with rapid fire. Dredd was on his feet and firing, but this guy was quick, and with all the smoke and the panic, Joe couldn't get a bead. Rookie mistake. My mind had been elsewhere. Otherwise, Zing would never have got the drop on me. I took a breath, pulled in my senses, and reached for him. Oh, he was good. A Shaolin-trained mind fighter, out of the new Beijing Thought Institute. Formless like water, solid like stone, all that stuff. But I'm better. A lot better. He's there, Dredd. West side of the street, running for the Zoom train station.
Almost out of range.
Dredd took aim. Moving target. Crowds all around. It was almost an impossible shot. Joe, we're gonna lose him!
Not likely. Creep's not going anywhere. Clear the pedway. Justice Department business.
Oh, looks like you were right, Dredd. And wrong.
I took him out with a leg shot. It wasn't enough to kill him.
Look at this. The foam on his lips. Poison. Must have had it in a hollow tooth. It's a polydichloric euthamol. Liquefies organic matter on contact. I had maybe 10 seconds before the dead guy's brain turned into goop. Going into a mine so soon after death trauma was never an easy ride, but it wasn't like I had much option. Come on, pal, talk to me. He was slipping away, like sand through my fingers.
Anderson, snap out of it.
I'm okay. Oh, that was a close one. He tried to take me with him.
Did you get anything from what's left?
He was here to look for something. He knew that others were coming too. All of them wanted, not just the Sino-sets. It took a moment for me to process it, sifting through the storm of images in the agent's mind, picking out what I needed. In those last seconds, he was thinking about a girl he liked, the feel of cold water on his back, the men at home who would be angry because he'd failed them, and the pain. But beneath all that, they're looking for something called the Pariah. Whatever that is, it's right here in Mega City 1.
You know where?
I just got a name. Debbie Harry Block. That's only a couple of miles away. The city blocks. They don't call them that because they're small. Every one of them is a whole town on its own. Citizen hubs, shoplexes, schools, med centers, entertainment tiers. Some of the top-end Luxap towers even have their own microclimates and mock resorts. A lot of Siths live from cradle to grave and never set foot outside their building. And some blocks, you had to wonder how they were still standing. Debbie Harry was like that. A Super 60, one of the old-school designs that used to be everywhere back in the day. But the aftermath of block wars, nuclear wars, zombie wars, and all the other kinds of wars the Big Meg had weathered took their toll. It was another slum in a city where the ghettos reached the sky. About the only good thing you could say was that it had a decent view. Up high to the east you could see clear to the Statue of Justice, and south all the way to the relocated White Cliffs of Dover. The sun was coming up by the time we got there. Dredd and I parked our Lawmasters in a nearby watch bay and moved in. As we got closer, I knew we were in the right place.
Anderson, you with me?
This is it. I'm sure of it. Something on the upper floors. Suddenly, Dredd pushed me back into cover. What is it?
We got company. Tall guy, orange wraparound, green knee pads. You see him?
Yeah. He's not a local. We were looking at Echo Mkembe, another foreign agent, an undercover judge from Simba City. He had to be tracing the same lead as us. I ran my telepathic senses over the guy, but all I got back was static. He had a psi-jammer on him. Pretty serious technology. I could have broken through it, but not without short-circuiting the device and alerting Mkembe.
He's entering the building. All right, I'll shadow him, see where he goes. You follow your... whatever it is. See if you can find this pariah before he does.
That's a Raj. And Dredd. Try to get us a live one this time. Pariah. It's not exactly a friendly way to describe something, is it? I tried to keep my mind clear, not to think about the weird and freaky storm that I'd seen in all my years as a psi judge. The thing about this job was, just when you thought you'd seen it all, something else came along and topped it. So to say I had an acute sense of trepidation would be underselling it. The public park was on the higher levels and had seen better days. The robo-gardeners were corroded hunks in the middle of overgrown lawns. The boating lake was dry and slimy. I could make out groups of Juve-gangers hiding in the trees, sizing me up, wondering if they could take out a lone lady judge. I had other things on my mind, though. The kid was alone in the playground, among all the rusted-out spin slides and climbing frames. On the swing set, describing a curve, forward and back and forward. I guess he could have been anywhere between 8 and 12. He had a look about him, though, a kind of flatness to his features, a bland texture. Out on the street, you might never notice him. I couldn't pin down his ethnicity, but wherever he was from, it sure as grud wasn't here. I kept my psi senses in check. Even so, his psionic aura was dazzling, bright, like staring into the sunrise. "Hey, how you doing?" He answered me without saying a word. Images and sensations washed over my thoughts. He was lost and alone. But at the same time, he was curious about everything around him. He smiled at me. I asked him if he had any family, anyone to care for him. He showed me pictures of men and women in lab coats, a whole lot of mothers and fathers. But he didn't have any real family. Not anymore. The kid walked off towards the big panoramic windows, and I followed him carefully. I kept my distance, see? That's when I started to realize he wasn't just bright. He was practically nuclear. Meanwhile, Dredd was following our Simba City pal. The guy was using a delta wave scanner to pick up psychic phenomena, another choice piece of high-tech hardware, and he was closing in on the park. When he located the kid, that thing must have buried the needle.
Anderson, you read me? Mkembe is close. He's approaching your position. He's armed. I'm gonna take him out.
Negative, Dredd. Hold off. We can't risk spooking the target. The kid heard me, and he wanted to know who I was talking to. Just my buddy, Joe. You'd like him. He's real friendly, all smiles. The thing was, he couldn't read Dredd's psychic signal because Joe Dredd didn't have one. That made him nervy. See, old Stonyface has a 00 psychic rating, the lowest possible point on the scale. He was a dead zone, telepathically speaking. I had to wonder what kind of rating the kid had. Something told me there wasn't a number big enough. I went to the windows. The kid was smiling and pointing at something. The Statue of Justice. 150 meters tall, towering over Old Lady Liberty, the statue of a judge looks out over the entire city. You can see him for miles around. It's a symbol of what the judges do, for better or for worse. The kid liked it. Liked the badge and the eagle. I think he was looking for someone to watch over him, someone he could trust. But just as I was actually starting to make some progress...
Rock! Creep's got an auto laser! Echo Mkembe! Drop your weapon and surrender! Now!
Mkembe didn't listen. The second the laser discharged, the kid's face changed. Deep panic, terror, so strong it came off him like dark fire. "No! Wait! Don't run! I'll protect you!" It didn't matter what I said. He saw a man with a gun and panicked. His fear was stifling, choking. He knew Mkembe was there to kill him. I tried to reach the kid, tell him I would help him. But he didn't want to hear it. He'd been told so many lies, so many times. His first instinct was to lash out. He hit me with everything he had, all the fright and the bone-deep terror. It ripped into my mind, a psychic tornado, like nothing I'd ever felt before. He hit me hard, tore me down, and down, and down. Not dead again, then. That's good. Last time I was a real mess.
Anderson, how do you feel?
Fuzzy. What happened? How long have I been out? For a second I was afraid I'd been in another year-long coma, but it turned out it had only been a few hours. The damage was light. And the kid?
Gone. He blasted the whole block with a telekinetic shockwave. Blanked all the monitors, too. Neat trick.
So we lost him. Drock! I was so close. Well, we're just going to have to start again. If he can do something like that,
Anderson.
There's no telling what a foreign power could do with him. Give me a second to catch my breath and I'll trance out. See if I can sense him again.
Anderson, listen to me. That's not gonna happen.
Why? 'Cause he knocked me on my ass? I wasn't ready for him. Next time I will be. I just gotta concentrate. Concentrate.
You can't. The robo-doc ran a cerebral scan. Side Judge Janus confirmed it.
I can't sense anything.
Whatever that kid did, it wiped out all your psionic abilities. They're gone. You're a 00 now. Just like me.
No. The silence was deafening. You know how they say people who lose their eyesight compensate with other senses? That's a load of raw munce. Try to imagine it, okay? Think of the dial going down on every sensation you have. Taste gone, no smells. Nothing to the touch but the same bland smoothness. All sounds muffled and distant. And everything you see, all of it, just grey, no colour, no depth, just monochrome. That's what it was like for me. All the subtle shadings of thought and emotion, all the ghost-light auras I saw every second of every day, gone. I don't think I've ever been so terrified. A piece of me had vanished, not ripped out, not burned away, just gone, like it had never been there. Dredd told me to stay in the infirmary, let the robo-docs run more tests, but what was the snecking point? It's not like I broke a leg. As far as they could tell, and with psionics, it's never been an exact science, I'd be psi-blind for the rest of my days. A mundane, just like 90% of the world's population. I got my gear back on. I wasn't physically injured, and sitting on the medbed made me feel like a drocking invalid. No matter what had happened, I was still a judge. I had to do something. I caught my reflection in a window. I looked like a ghost. My eyes fell to the shield on my chest, the badge that identified me as a psi judge. I didn't have the right to wear it anymore. I followed Dredd to the interrogation cubes where Mkembe was in custody. Along the way, we passed people I knew from Psi Division. They wouldn't meet my gaze, like they were afraid they might catch something off me, as if it was contagious. And then, when one of them finally did have the guts to turn my way, he had a look on his face that made me want to punch him. I didn't have to read his mind to know he was thinking of me like I had some kind of terminal disease. In a way, the pity in his eyes was the worst thing.
You can observe the questioning from the monitor room. Before you argue with me, don't. Doc says you're in no condition to return to duty. You shouldn't even be here.
That's rich coming from you, since when have you ever listened to the med techs?
I'm the lead judge on this case, and it's my call. Wait outside.
Yes, sir. Dredd being Dredd, he didn't waste any time. He went for the more direct interrogatory approach, but Mkembe shrugged it off like a love tap. The next thing out of his mouth, after the busted tooth, was some noise about exercising his diplomatic immunity. As an official representative of the Simba City judiciary, he told Dredd we had no right to hold him.
Wanna bet?
And And here's where it started to get hinky. Mkembe talked about the danger the boy represented. He said if we knew what he was, we'd have been begging the Simba to kill him. The next part I found particularly interesting. The part where Mkembe described the boy as a demon like the other mind witches. I think he was referring to me at the end there. We didn't have much time to sweat this guy. Representatives of his embassy would arrive soon. But as much as Dredd wanted to get on with beating some answers out of him, I knew that wouldn't work. Simba City's covert agents don't just put on the tough guy act for show. Pain means nothing to them. They're conditioned to withstand all forms of physical interrogation. They're bio-altered with animal DNA, giving them enhanced stamina, improved physical strength, as well as the ability to switch off their awareness of pain with a thought. We need another approach.
Anderson.
Oh, you should have seen the look on Mkembe's face when I walked in. He lost that smile real quick. Hey, Dredd, I thought you could use a hand. See, the Simbas have a hardcore loathing for telepaths. In fact, the treaty between our cities expressly forbids the use of psychic interrogation. Dredd gave me a measuring look. He knew the regs better than anyone, but he also knew he wasn't going to get anywhere with this guy by strong-arming him. Of course, after what happened to me, I could no more read Mkembe's mind than I could flap my arms and fly. But Mkembe didn't know that.
Judge Anderson is our best telepath. Creeps like you are an open book to her.
Yeah, a big book, with pictures. I picked a point in the middle of his forehead and stared right at it. In a few seconds he was sweating and blinking. You know, it's amazing what the power of suggestion can accomplish. Just the hint of something you fear can do the job better than the real thing. And this guy was terrified of me. Oh, that's interesting.
Got something?
Our pal here has a lot of secrets, don't you? Things I bet his people back home wouldn't like to come out. At this point, I swear he actually gave a little noise, kind of like a whimper. But if you were willing to cooperate with us, I'm sure we could come to an understanding. Right, Dredd?
I can be discreet, if I want to be.
That's the thing about folks who work in the shadows. They always have stuff hidden in the dark that they don't want other people to see. Mkembe spilled it all, and what he said made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The kid? Well, he was special. One of a kind, in fact. A biotechnology corporation out of the Luxor City pyramid had gene-engineered him. They called it the Pariah Project. His DNA template was patched together from cell samples taken from more than 500 different psychers. They bred him inside a synthi womb, accelerated his growth. They were going to make him into a living weapon. But someone found out. Someone wanted the kid for themselves. The secret leaked. The corporation was raided, the facility leveled, and in the chaos the boy fled. See, according to Mkembe, that thing the boy did in Debbie Harry Block, that was just the smallest flex of his psionic muscles. He was a Psyclade, at full power capable of neutralizing psychic ability and mental functions over a massive radius. No wonder a dozen city-states were after him. The kid was the telepathic equivalent of an atomic bomb. Just thinking about it made my blood turn to ice.
Anderson, you look like hell.
I'm okay. What else did you get from him?
According to Mkembe, as well as his people in the Sino-Sits, there's also agents in town from Hondo, East Meg 2, Texas City, Britsit, and the Canadian Confed. Now, since those last three are supposed to be our allies, I guess they must reckon the kid's worth more than our goodwill.
We gotta find him first. The Simbas wanted to terminate him, but there's no telling what the other cities will do.
Could set off a psychic first strike. Maybe the opening shot in a new war.
Yeah.
All right, I'm taking this to Hershey.
We'll both go.
No, we won't. I'm suspending you.
What? Why?
Look at you. You're not recovered, and you know it. I told you to stand down, but you ignored my orders. The only reason I'm not putting you under medical isolation is because you helped me back there. You can't lie to me, Anderson. I know you too well. You're torn up inside by what that kid did. You need time to process it. Get used to...
What? Being a normal all of a sudden?
You're a good judge, with or without your psychic talents. But right now, you're nowhere near stable. You're a liability. I'm making this an order. Stand down. We'll handle this without you.
The worst part was, he was right. For a moment there, I wanted to give in to it. Dredd gave me the out. I could go back to the medbay or the barracks, just call it a day. Right then and there. I felt more tired than I ever had in my life, drained, like I was less than I was. But then I started thinking about the kid. He had no idea what kind of storm was raging around him. People wanted him dead. They wanted to take him to pieces, or they wanted to use him. I thought about what I'd felt in the park, his need for someone to trust, for a guardian. We're judges, right? We're the law, and the law does not turn a blind eye on the blameless or the innocent. If anyone was innocent, if anyone needed protection, it was that boy. And I was the closest thing he had to a friend. Besides, it's not like I was ever going to obey Dredd's orders. I mean, come on, I have a reputation to live up to. You really don't know how much you rely on something until you don't have it anymore. As a sigh, most of the time I could pluck confessions out of the minds of the guilty with just a look. And when a psychic gets a hunch, it's not just educated guesswork. We're sifting through ribbons of the future, seeing possibilities, making predictions. Okay, it doesn't always come up aces, that's true. The whole judge-child thing back in '02, we're still trying to live that one down over at Psi Division. But anyhow, I had to find the kid. I couldn't shake the feeling that if anyone else got to him before me, it would end very badly. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I was hoping he could undo what he'd done to me. Before, I could have dropped into some Zen no-mind meditation, got all my chakras in a line, threw some runes, and maybe even tried a little spotomancy. Instead, I had to rely on gut instinct and deductive reasoning. So yeah, I took a guess. But it was a pretty good one. The tour robot tried to charge me 10 creds to get in, and then another 15 for the guidebook. But I wasn't here to sightsee. I thought back over what had happened in the park, and what the kid had been staring at out of the window, and that's when I got it. The Statue of Justice. A monument of rockcrete and plastine, towering over Megacity 1, a permanent reminder that the judges were an ever-present force, always watching, always protecting. A symbol of safety and vigilance. A guardian. If anyone needed that, it was the kid. It was dark and gloomy inside. Most of the interior was off-limits to citizens, but there were still places where someone could hide. Someone small. Hello? Are you in here? It's me, Cassandra. I want to talk. I'm on my own. It's just me. And then, very faint. Hey, guess you're wondering how I found you, huh? Well, I'm pretty smart. And also a judge. They teach us that kind of thing, but don't worry. I didn't tell anyone else where you are. He was nervous, fearful, guilty, all that. Wouldn't even look me in the eye. I could sense the sorrow in him for having hurt me. He tried to keep control of his ability, But he couldn't. He didn't know how. He was so very afraid. Take that. Add in some strangers with guns that he couldn't read with his telepathic abilities. Was it any wonder he freaked out? It's okay. I understand. Just... He showed me something. I'm not sure how he did it. After what happened in the park, I was the psychic equivalent of a blown light bulb. But maybe there was still some kind of connection between us. Like I said before, the kid was something special. He showed me images of a place of pain and agony, somewhere he never wanted to return to. Laboratories and endless tests. Everyone there had died. There were explosions and gunfire, blood and death. His mothers and fathers, the scientists who made him, grown him from a knot of DNA in a petri dish, they'd hurt him so much, and he shed no tears when they died around him. He was terrified of being like them, of causing pain, of becoming a bad person. I told him that hurting people was what made you a bad person, and he told me he was sorry. He could fix things. He could make me better. But it would take a while. As good as that sounded, as safe as he might have felt hiding out here in the basement, I knew we had to get away. He had to be tired and hungry. If I could just get him to Psi Division headquarters or even a local sector house, he would be safe from... The kid's eyes went all far away on me for a second. And that's when I knew. It was too late. Oh, great. Mob psychers, that's all we need. See, the Justice Department's not the only group who have psychics working for them. A few of the organized crime families throughout the Big Meg also have their gangs of telepaths, precogs, and what have you. We crush them like bugs when we find them, because one thing the Psi Division hates, it's competition. So for the most part, they keep themselves below the radar. The Castrato family use them as muscle. The Umbra mob have a couple of mind readers, and the Roccos got themselves some blitzers. That's hitmen to you and me. Fire starters, mind blasters, whatever you want to call them. They were trouble. I tried to get the kid to do the trick he'd done in the park, but he shook his head. I guess it took him a while to recharge. Listen to me, you gotta run. Go find Judge Dredd. I'll hold these creeps. He hesitated and took my hand. Hey, did you hear me? Whoa! Whoa! Oh, what did you just do? He ran before I could get any answers, and the perps were too close for me to go after him. I drew my lawgiver. You creeps are under arrest. Hey, it always seemed to work for Joe. Not so much for me, though. A tall, skinny creep came at me, and his hands were on fire. Not the, oh, drop, my skin is falling off my fingers kind of fire, though. More like the pyrokinetic flames of death kind of fire. He pulled a ball of flame out of thin air, threw it right at me, and I went for the death. I felt the burn through my uniform, caught the smell of my singed hair as the edge of the flames whipped past me. I rolled, came up with the lawgiver. Standard execution round. I caught my pal Torchy square on and sent him straight to Repsych. But the odds were still stacked against me. My radio was dead, they had to be jamming me. I started to regret not listening to Dredd, but at least the kid had got away. That was something. Or maybe not. They must have had someone on the rear exit caught the kid on his way out. The lead blitzer pulled a knife from his belt and pressed the tip into the boy's throat. If I didn't drop my gun and come out, well, I'm sure you can guess the rest. These creeps weren't exactly innovative with the whole hostage demand thing. Ah, drat it. I threw down my lawgiver. Let him go. There were 5 of them, and they were laughing. They were actually surprised I had surrendered. One of them even made a crack about my maternal instincts. But the Rocco boys here were way out of their league. They had no idea what the kid represented. It didn't add up. Why were these two cred hoods involved in all this? The answer came walking in the door. The Roccos had some new friends, 4 of them. The guys looked like trouble. I knew Sov agents when I saw them. These had to be the spooks from East Meg 2 that Mkembe had mentioned. And they knew me too. What can I say? My reputation precedes me. But my blood ran cold when I heard them describe the kid as the prototype. They didn't have his best interests at heart, that was certain. Things were starting to fit. The Sovs had hired the Roccos as muscle to track down the kid and snatch him. Doubtless they were getting a big payday from all this. And me? Oh, I was the bonus prize. I tried to stall for time. Hey, Rocco, you're going from regular crime to treason now? I mean, you know who these guys are, right? East Meg operatives? Same folks who were throwing nukes at us a few years back? The Sovs talked about the difference between war and business. The Rocco boys, though, they kinda saw my point. Just not the way I'd hoped, though. Before the Ruskies could blink, they had a dozen guns trained on them. You can guess what happened next. See, the Roccos were crooks through and through, but they were still megas. I guess they thought they were being patriotic. They left the Sovs where they fell. Before I could stop them, they were hustling the boy out toward a waiting hover truck. I made a move, tried to get to him. Stupid! Didn't need to see the future to see what came next. I took it in the chest, and the armor didn't stop it. The pain hit me like a hammer. One of them came close, had a gun. He raised it to finish it. But the shot never came. He looked at me as if I was already dead, like he couldn't see me breathing. Then it all went dark. And to be honest, I expected the next face I saw to have a halo. Or maybe some horns.
Anderson! Metroid, get her up. Seal that wound. I don't want her bleeding out.
Dredd? Oh, okay, not dead. How many times is that now? You'd think it would get easier, wouldn't you? But nope. I lay there while the robo-doc stitched my chest back up, and Dredd loomed over me, flinty and extremely pissed.
Exactly what part of the words "stand down" do you have trouble understanding?
Yeah, I'm happy to see you too, Joe. Try not to be so obvious about it, though. People are gonna start talking.
What the druck happened?
I took a leaf out of your book, ignored the higher-ups, followed a hunch. Tracked down the kid.
Got a bullet in the chest.
That part I wasn't planning on. Hey, easy there, Tinhead. It was a mob hit team from the Rocco family. They were working for the East Meggers.
So I saw. 4 Sov deep cover agents executed in the basement of the Statue of Justice. The Council of 5 are gonna love that. But it confirms Mkembe's statement. These creeps have been on our watch list for months, but we couldn't isolate them. For the Sovs to stick their heads up out of cover, it had to be something big.
Hey, you don't have to thank me.
The Roccos have got places all over the city. Where did they take the boy?
I got an idea. I think I can find him.
Yeah, well, you tried that twice now. First time you ended up brain burned. Second time you were nearly a corpse.
Third time's the charm. He gave me that look. I know Dredd seems like he only has the one expression, but if you've known him long enough, you can see he actually has 3.
That psych out in the park clearly screwed up your judgment as well as your abilities. You're on the next H-wagon to a med center.
No, Drocket, Dredd. Don't you turn your back on me. I can sense the kid's thoughts.
00, Anderson. Just like me. That means any kind of psionics don't work. And if you think otherwise...
I'm not delusional, if that's what you're saying. I shared my brain with Judge Death and came out the other side with all my marbles. Well, enough of them. I'm not gonna crack up now. Maybe Dredd would be able to find the kid before the Roccos got him outside the city limits, or sold him on to someone else. Maybe. But I wasn't willing to take the risk. I could find him, I knew it. I knew it! I think Dredd was considering locking me up in an ISO cube, or at the very least handcuffing me to the robo-dock. But he knew what was at stake. There was no doubt in my mind that Chief Judge Hershey had made it more than clear to him. Then he gave me a look. The other look, I mean.
Get on your feet, and don't disobey me again.
We got a fast H-wagon and took it up over the city, skimming the tops of the Connaught towers, making slow loops. Dredd wanted to set up a spiral search pattern, do it by the book, not me. I went for the random. I sat, Lotus style, in the centre of the crew compartment, tried to reach inside myself and find the trance. It was like touching an open wound, like peeling back the bandage to see all the damage that had been done. But I had to do it. It was the only way. Whatever the kid had done to my abilities, that quick touch he'd given me back in the Statue of Justice was mending them. I could feel it, like sand pouring through the neck of an hourglass, the sense coming back. But too damned slow. I was reaching, struggling to pick up the tone of his thoughts. Imagine trying to pluck the sound of a single whisper from the middle of a roaring jetball crowd. Go southwest.
We did that once already.
Just do it, Dredd. He's out there. I know it.
Pilot, put us back on a southwesterly heading.
I was still trying to get my head around what had just happened. I was certain I was going to die, and for a moment I was so angry, so furious that I'd never get to see this thing through to the end. I thought again about that moment. That Rocco creep coming in to finish me off. The spit gun in his hand, coming up, the muzzle yawning. But he didn't shoot. Something in his eyes. Just as his finger tightened on the trigger, someone stopped him. The kid. There was no other explanation. He reached into the Blitzer's mind and fogged what he saw, made him think he was looking at a dead judge instead of a half-dead one. He saved my life. So I owed him. Come on, kid. Talk to me. I know you're listening. Did I really hear that? Or did I just think I did? The brain's a weird thing. Hundreds of years of studying it and we still don't really know how it works. And the discovery of psionics has only made it all the more confusing. I glanced up at Dredd. We're close, Joe.
We've been up here for 2 hours now, flying in circles. Are you sure this time?
It's all coming back to me, believe it. For a second I thought he was going to call me on it. But then he nodded.
All right, where do we need to go?
We're already here. Soon as I saw the location, I knew what we were looking at. A think easy. Basically, they're little more than rat-hole drinking pits where local perps can get booze, drugs, or whatever else they want. What makes them special is the protection they grant. See, a lot of Psi Division's everyday work is scoping and scanning, looking for crimes before they happen. One way we do that is to maintain telepathic surveillance on key perps. And of course that makes it tough for them to get any crime done when they can't be sure if one of us isn't peeping into their nasty little minds. A think easy gets around that. The place is packed with conventional counter-spy gear along with a bunch of mob psychers who do nothing but put up mental shields. The perps get a safe place to plan their latest heist, and the Roccos get a cut of the haul. The kid was in there, along with Grud knows how much of the local criminal populace.
Alert Sector Control! Our backup units here! Double time!
Over here!
I don't see anything.
That's because you're not supposed to. A holographic stealth matrix, emission shields, the works. There's probably some Rocco psycho standing right there in front of us, and we're looking straight through him.
A telepathic mask?
Yeah, that too. The whole spread is covered. These guys are real smart. They don't try and make you look the other way with brute mental force. It's more subtle than that. They hide in plain sight.
There's an easy way to find out. Heat seeker!
Nice shot. Hologram's down. there's the entrance. So, you didn't want to, try a more cautious approach?
Not really my style.
Yeah, Joe's idea of subtle is the application of a size 10 judge boot to the front door.
This is a raid.
Popular place. 1 second, half the spugs and crooks in the sector were sitting there sipping booze and cracking wise. The next, they were like rats leaving a sinking ship. It was panic and mayhem as they all tried to run for it at once.
Backup units will deal with these maggots. Where's the boy?
Yeah. This way, I think. There was a steel door out and back, and that led straight into an access tunnel. One thing about being on City Bottom, the lowest level before the old Undercity, was that the metropolitan recycling channels were right beneath your feet. I guess the Rocco mob built their think easy right on top of an old sewer. Smart, in a crude kind of way. In the event of a judge raid, like now, it was a last-ditch escape route. Of course, with all the troggies, the killer rats, and the mutigators living in the pipes, you'd have to be pretty desperate to use it as an out. Either that, or you had something worth so much you'd be willing to risk your life to get away with it. A floater pod was waiting down there, the getaway vehicle, and the boy was being forced inside by my old Rocco buddy. I couldn't risk firing on the pod. We could bring the whole tunnel down on top of us.
Anderson, armed perp to your right. Stay down!
The creep had a heavy pump-action stump gun, lethal at close quarters. He held the kid in front of his chest like a human shield. Dredd was drawing a bead on the blitzer, but he didn't fire. I stepped forward, holstering my pistol. You won't shoot the kid. He's your big fat payday, remember? The Rocco shooter looked confused for a moment. He was the one who'd shot me. I guess he was surprised to be talking to a woman he thought he'd killed. I smiled. Yeah, it's me. Now drop the gun and let the boy go, 'cause you won't get to come back from the dead. Just like before, he was suddenly there in my head. I could feel my abilities coming back, more and more every second. But he was so afraid, so terrified of death. The kid was panicking, and this time it was worse than it had been in the park. He couldn't contain his fear. It was going to rip free all over again. I tried to calm him. Listen to me. I need you to focus. You can do this. Trust me. Just do what I tell you. Focus your ability. The blitzer pressed the gun into the boy's throat. Focus your mind. That's it. Now you know what to do. It happened all at once, suddenly. That Rocco scumbag was clawing at his head and screaming in agony. He dropped the gun and stumbled to his knees. And the kid? Oh, the kid went down in a heap. I guess it was hard on him having to use all that raw power against one single target. But with my help, he did it. It's okay. You're safe now.
Anderson, step away.
Dredd! What the drock are you doing? Joe wasn't aiming at the blitzer anymore. Dredd's lawgiver was pointing at the boy.
You're in my line of fire.
You're going to kill him?
He needs time to gather his strength after each psionic blast. This might be the only chance we get.
He's just a child.
He's a weapon! You know it as well as I do. If he lives, the other megacities will never stop searching for him. His existence is a pretext for war. He's too dangerous, too volatile.
No!
The chief judge leaned on the Texans, found out what they knew. Seems that the destruction in Luxor City was caused by him. Hundreds of people were killed.
I didn't want to believe it, but Dredd had never lied to me. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew it was true. He isn't Owen Chrysler, Dredd. He's not evil, he just needs control. Everything he's done's because he couldn't handle his ability. But we can help him, I can help him.
No, the risk is too great. Selecting incendiary round.
You're going to shoot an unarmed child?
You think I want to do this? I have to. For the safety of my city. If one child has to die to save the lives of millions, then I will pull the trigger. Now get out of my way.
You know I won't, Joe. You're gonna kill me too? Or will you trust me? Nothing he said was wrong. That was the worst of it. I'd seen inside the kid's mind just for a moment. I'd seen that nuclear fire burning in his thoughts. He was a storm, a supernova, a force of nature distilled into one small, scared child. And maybe Dredd was right. Maybe the world would be a safer place if he never made it out of the tunnel. But I couldn't let that happen. We're judges, Joe. We're the law. And the law does not turn a blind eye to the blameless, the innocent. You know that better than any of us. This child needs a guardian. He needs protection. And
that's what we do.
He put away his gun and threw me a nod. Would Dredd have taken the shot if I hadn't been there to get in his way? I honestly don't know. And I'm not sure he does.
You realize this is on you now? If you develop an emotional attachment to the boy...
I'll take him to Psi Division. Put him in the mentoring program. Accelerated academy curriculum. He'll be my responsibility.
I'll back you up.
Thanks.
But you'd better be ready.
For what?
In case you're wrong.
And what if I am wrong? What if a day comes and I realize I should have let Dredd take the burden of that choice?
The child has been taken into protective custody by Psi Division.
But I'm not wrong. I know it.
Medical data indicates that the cessation of your psionic abilities was temporary.
He gave it back to me. Like I said, I owed him.
Your decisions in this investigation have been noted. The Council of Five will determine if further action is required.
Yeah, let me know how that turns out.
Psi Judge Anderson, this debriefing has not been concluded. Where are you going?
First, I'm gonna get myself some Synthicaf, and then I'm going back to what I do. What judges always do. Protecting the innocent. No matter who they are.
Okay, hello, my name's John Ainsworth and I'm the producer and director of the Judge Dredd Crime Chronicles, which we are currently making for Big Finish, and we're on day 2 of our recording, and I'm here with actors Toby Longworth and Louise Jameson. Hello. Hello.
Hi, hello.
Have you both had a good time?
It's been relatively painless, really. Yeah, I've loved it.
And Lou, you're more used to doing Doctor Who things for Big Finish.
Yes, I'm a Judge Dredd virgin.
And how? What did you make of the character?
There's probably a word for it. You know.
I loved it. I mean, as you know, I rang you up before and said, you know, she's so, because I didn't have any knowledge and didn't have time to do the research I probably should have done. I said, you know, it's a very, very masculine voice behind this woman. I know we tap into her maternal instincts halfway through, but you know, is there anywhere where we can soften it? And you made 1 or 2 suggestions, but you know, having had this big crack at it this morning, I can quite see why it had been written in exactly the way it had been written. I think it's a fabulous script that James has come up with. It's some really, really good flowing dialogue there and gorgeous rhythms within it.
And did you feel it? I mean, you didn't feel you were playing a man, effectively?
No, I didn't. But when my very first read through, I thought, ooh, this seems more like a bloke than a woman for the first half. But of course, that's the nature of the beast, isn't it? She's extremely tough and direct, and has witnessed a lot of pain and anguish, and you have to become a bit anaesthetised to it to survive, I'd have thought.
I guess in terms of performance, it's that balancing act between getting those points, but still bringing over that she is still female and feminine.
Yeah, and also because I've got a reasonably soft voice. I mean, that puts its own layer onto it anyway, doesn't it?
Yes, and I guess I thought about that when asking you to play
When
the
casting.
part, that you'd still bring that sort of slightly sexy, seductive quality to it, which is expected of Judge Anderson.
I was
and
hoping that as well.
And Toby,
Yes.
long time Judge Dredd aficionado.
First time caller.
What have you made of today's particular?
Well, it's really interesting because it's giving a legitimate voice to Judge Anderson. And as you quite rightly say, that she is a combination of stern and sexy. And I think a lot of people said to me when I started doing Judge Dredd that they, of course, had been reading the magazines and the strips. And they were split into two very different camps. One of the camps was one which had not visualized a voice in their mind. They hadn't heard a voice for Dredd in their mind. And the other one who had heard one, and it wasn't mine. But there were a few people that had actually thought I got the voice right. But I've heard Anderson in my head reading the comic, and that's pretty much what she sounded like, if you see what I mean. The same kind of, the sexy solidity. Is that solidity the right term? But
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
a toughness, but still she's kind of she's sort of a knowing seductress, a knowing kind of wry, arched eyebrow.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful quality that she seems to have.
And actually, I thought what came across really nicely, perhaps even more than I realised just reading the script, was the actual relationship between Anderson and Dredd. And you really felt they had history together and knew each other, and they could sort of still be quite sort of blunt and short with each other.
Yeah, little 3-4 moments there, little bits of sarcasm, little bit, which actually shows how fond you are of somebody without actually saying it.
And I think there is a real fondness the two of them have, which is interesting. That somebody is out there who actually understands Dredd sufficiently to know that they can be fond of him. You know what I mean? Is that
Yes.
That's very appealing.
And that lovely little section about, when you get to know him a bit better, you realise he's got 3 expressions.
That's lovely, isn't it?
He runs the gamut of emotions from A to B.
And I was going to ask Lou, in terms of, this is something that Toby and I have been talking about, but that difference between performing the dialogue sections and performing the narration, does it feel quite a different sort of approach?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And I really like the contrast. And with your direction, you've encouraged that more and more as we went through the script. That kind of, what's going on privately. And it's what Shakespeare uses, the soliloquy to the audience is one without subtext. It's total truth, total naked truth. So you really get to see the person when you're inside their head listening to their thoughts. And then when they're speaking, there is always a subtext. There is always some information you want to get over that isn't necessarily what the words are saying. So you're switching between that public and private life the whole time.
That's a very good summing up.
The Regency aside, I'm liking this work very well.
And would you be happy to come back and be Anderson again?
Certainly.
Hooray!
And to work with you.
Oh, bless. Because it felt like, I want to hear more of them together.
Oh, fantastic.
Definitely.
Yes, it's been lovely.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you to you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.